Hey, congratulations. You landed a ministry job. Maybe it's your first ministry job. Maybe you've resigned your previous one or headed to a new church to start a new ministry. Regardless, you have to get there, right? And so I want to talk to you about moving all your stuff, because there's more to moving than just throwing your stuff in a box and renting a U-Haul. And that involves a conversation between the church leaders and you, a very open and honest conversation, very transparent about what your moving needs are going to be and what the church can provide. Because the reality is, the church is only going to be able to do what they can afford to do. And there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to moving. So you might have to get out of your rental contract, or you might have to sell a house. You might have to downsize, or maybe you're moving into a bigger place and you have to buy more stuff. Maybe your spouse has to resign a job and do all those things. Maybe you have kids, and that means getting them out of school and starting them in a new school. It means loading all your stuff and packing it all up and figuring out how you're going to get all that across town or across state or even across the country. I guess the best way for me to explain this is just to talk about the 3 ministry moves that Rhonda and I went through. When we were in college back in 1995, and I graduated and I had accepted a position in Northeast Ohio. I mean, we were a young couple. We didn't have a whole lot. Everything that we had could fit in a 24-foot box truck and still had room left over. But we also had my truck, and we had Rhonda's car, and we had a baby that was just a few months old. And my driving skills, I really wasn't comfortable driving a 24-foot moving van, towing my truck behind it across country. I mean, I kind of knew where Ohio was. I got a map and figured out how I would get there. But I had to put into some things to make sure my family's okay. And so that was a conversation I had with the board of the church that hired me. And so they agreed we would rent this U-Haul and this car dolly there in Oklahoma. And then we would drive to Kansas, where my family was and Rhonda's family. And then my mom, Rhonda, and baby Jordan drove to Kansas City and caught a plane, and they flew to Ohio, where my dad, my brother, and I, we drove the moving van and Rhonda's car, which meant we had a one-night stay in a hotel, and we had food, and we had gas as we traveled. But the church was really good, and they paid for all that. They paid for the truck and the gas and the hotel and the food and Rhonda and my mom's airline ticket. And then when we arrived in Ohio, they had a storage unit for us that we could put stuff in. And there was a woman who on her property had a trailer, and we were able to stay in this trailer for a while we looked for a house. And then when we moved to West Ohio, it just so happens that a man in the church actually owned a 24-foot box truck. And so me, him, and another man drove across the state, and we loaded all of our stuff into this truck, and we moved it down again to a storage unit. And there was a family there that had a basement apartment that I was able to move into. And we had to make a hard decision. I was there a couple of months without Rhonda and the boys so that they could finish up school up until Christmas break, and then we moved them down. And then the owner of that house decided to sell. That made us homeless. But the church stepped in and said, we'll put you in an apartment for 6 months, and we'll pay that apartment rent for 6 months while you're looking for your house. And so when we moved from the basement to the apartment, that was on us. And then we moved from the apartment to the house that we bought. That was really on us, but it literally was down the street. So, I could do all that with my pickup truck. When we moved from Ohio to Kentucky, things had changed. We didn't have two boys with us, and so it's just Rhonda and I, but Rhonda was finishing out her job there in Ohio. And so again, we were separated for a couple of months, but somebody in the church had a rental house, and the church stepped up and said, you know what, we'll pay the rent for a couple months and until you sell your house, and then you can take over the rent. And the lady gave me a great deal. And I said, you know, I can get everything that we own down here in 2 trips. And so the church said, yeah, we'll pay for the rental of 2 U-Hauls so you make the 2 trips. And I was able to drive by that time a U-Haul. I was comfortable doing that. And so we drove the U-Hauls to the rental house. And here's the cool thing. When we got to Eaton and when we got to Moorhead, both times there were people from the church waiting for us, and they helped us unload the box trucks and get that either into the storage unit or in the rental house. And then people did what's called a pantry party for us. And so we went to church, and people just stockpiled canned goods and box goods for us, and things that we would need for our new house. Some people gave us gift cards. And that was just a really warm, inviting way to let us know that we were loved and the church was going to take care of us. So when you go to a ministry, whether it's a new ministry, your first ministry, or you're just moving to a new church, a new town, a new city, a new state, you have to figure out how I'm going to get all my stuff from point A to point B. And so you have to have a conversation, and you have to do some research and find out which is the cheapest way. You know, maybe you're really good with packing and moving and you can drive the truck. Maybe you need to rent or hire a moving company who comes in and packs your stuff and drives it and delivers it. But those conversations need to happen so that everybody's on the same page, because it's not cheap to move, and it's not cheap to move a family. And so have that conversation, but understand that the church can only do what they can afford to do. I want you to have eyes wide open as you prepare to move into your new ministry. Hey, I love you, and I'll see you next time.